let's get into the giant mailbag.
What crazy thing did Citi do this week?
It's time for Mattress running the numbers. Ready for the main event?
The main event.
Frequent Miler on the air starts now. Today's main event, magical point conversions. This past week, Nick has talked about magically converting his JetBlue points to Amtrak. He forgot all about that and could have done it for a trip to New York City on Amtrak. And there's reasons why that could be a good thing or reasons why you might not want to do it. But regardless, it's kind of magical to turn one type of points into a whole different type of points and still get good value out of it. So
gives you access to a whole new bucket of points, right? You're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that I had Amtrak points, but I do. They're just in my JetBlue account.
That's right. That's right. And a lot of people are sitting on JetBlue points because, you know, for various reasons, they earn them. And maybe you're not using them and maybe you can use them for Amtrak. So that's a really cool thing. But as I said, lots of other cool little backdoor ways of getting to different types of points that we're going to be talking all about. First, of course, giant mailbag.
Drag it out.
Today's giant mail is quite giant, so I had to trim it down. It's still going to be giant, so bear with me. This comes from Alex, who says, and again, I trimmed this down a little bit.
I'm getting comfortable.
As an avid frequent miler reader and listener, in parentheses, fanatic, you have all been helping me to fantastic trips for years. One frequent problem I have is the way all of us in the points and miles community talk about great award charts and redemptions while only casually mentioning award availability. This is not to imply it isn't mentioned, but rather it seems to be maybe even more important than a good award chart. For example, Aeroplan's chart isn't as great to Europe as Virgin Atlantic, except you can find Swiss Air and United availability far more easily than Delta. And don't even get me started on American. Anyway, you guys do it better than the others, but I would love to see this information included more whenever there is a discussion of award sweet spots, which seems to happen regularly.
I mean, that's a good piece of feedback. I think we do typically mention that award availability is tough, especially like on Delta, for instance, that it ebbs and flows. Sometimes you'll see a bunch and sometimes you won't see any at all. But I mean, it is a good point. And availability, the thing is, it's so variable as to A, when you're going to find it, and then B, as to how much it matters to different travelers. Like, you know, for me, now that I need 4 seats, availability is, and that my kids are starting school and things like that, availability at the right times is much more important to me than it was a couple of years ago when I only needed 2 seats and we could take off tomorrow or next month or next year or whenever. So I totally understand that there are people in very different circumstances, and award availability is a difficult challenge.
It sure is. And there's no magical answer to that. And, the problem with, and Alex knows this, it's clear from his email that he knows the problem, which is that it changes all the time. We can't really say, that this one never has award availability or this one frequently does. I mean, we try to say that if we know it, but it's just so variable that there are trends. Like I agree with him that, Swiss Air and he didn't mention Lufthansa, but they tend to open lots of business class award space, and that's fantastic.
Turkish is back to releasing a lot.
He also mentioned United as being easier than Delta. I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that at all. I thought the same thing. I was like, well, yeah, I always see Swiss seats, but United seats, that was the first thing that hopped out of me. But that's the thing about award availability, right? Like, I mean, I could tell you what usually is the case, but it won't matter at all if your vacation is during dates when whatever I tell you is not true. You're going to think, oh, Nick's a liar. And the thing is, I think a lot of us that are in this hobby are the type of people that aren't going to accept less than sort of like close to ideal, at least, redemption. So like I'm going to keep hunting until I find that Delta availability that I want. Now I know not everybody has that luxury. So some people will be like, well, I have to travel during these 2 weeks when the kids are off of school and that's it. So I know some people won't have the same flexibility that I do, but I know there's a lot of us also in this game who are like, well, you know what, if I have to leave on a Tuesday at 3:00, but I get first class for 20,000 points, that's what I'm going to do, so I'll find a way to make that work. And so I think it's worth highlighting those sweet spots because I think a lot of us like to hunt for those and are willing to, hold out for them. But, and like we said, I think it's just hard to come up with universals as to what's always true.
Right. So Alex, we agree with you
I hear
completely.
You. Yeah.
We just don't know really what to do about
it.
Right. Other than we will try to, keep making point of it when we know one way or another about award availability. What you just said, Nick, made me realize I should share a little story about my own award booking experience last night and this morning. So I need a particular flight in Europe, just a short hop across Europe. Usually those flights are really cheap, right?
Right.
In this case, there's really only one flight that meets our needs, and that's on Air France. And it's,
let me guess, it's not really cheap.
It's not really cheap. It's well over $300 for just this one way little hop from Paris to Italy. And when I look up award availability, there's no economy award availability. There is business class. Now, we know that these little
intra-European business class, huh?
We know, European business class. What that means is you sit in a coach-like seat. It's closer to the front of the plane than the other coach seats, and the middle seat is blocked. So you're not, so you don't have someone next to you, not even your spouse,
because it's literally blocked off, right?
Literally block the middle seat. So they'll be on the window, and you'll be in the aisle, or vice versa. So that's what business class is. So it's not usually worth spending a lot on. But so Delta shows the award, the business class award, 25,000 miles per person. Air France shows it for about 40-something thousand per person. Aeromexico shows it for about 156,000 per person.
We're not going in the wrong direction here.
Virgin Atlantic shows it for 8,000 per person. Okay.
Ooh.
So that's exciting, right?
Right.
Bingo. I've got Virgin Atlantic miles. I get on, I try to book it. It says, and it goes all the way through. I put in the credit card information, everything. It says, the tickets are no longer available. Seats are no longer available. These things change all the time. I go back to another search. They're still there. I check on Delta. It's still there from Delta, and run it again and again and again. They no longer seem to, Virgin Atlantic no longer seems to have their like text-based chat feature or anything like that. And their website says, basically, don't bother calling. It'll take forever to get through to anyone. So I tried again this morning, and the search results say only 2 left. Get the same error message. I ended up booking through Delta, 25,000 per person.
You didn't call Virgin Atlantic and try?
I didn't have time. So it was before us recording the show. I would have called, right? But it's like these 2 seats. If just one person comes on and snags one of them, then I'm in trouble. I don't really have a good backup plan because the cash rate is very high. And so anyway,
so you booked
I did not like doing that, but I don't know that was the best decision, but it hurts knowing that 8K award is out there, and I couldn't figure out how to use it. Anyway,
that's
that was sort of confession time, I guess.
Even if we told you that, hey, you can, it's always available. When you look at Virgin Atlantic, you see those Air France flights are available all the time. I can tell you that, but it may not be true, as it turns out. When you get to the booking stage, it may not actually work.
I think something about the Virgin Atlantic website is broken in actually finishing the booking part. Because I did think, maybe it's just not really bookable. It's like phantom award space. Right. But the fact that I was able to book it through Delta means, nope, it was really there.
It was really there. Yeah. I would have to bet that a phone agent would have been able to make that happen, but I don't
think
know
so
that for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
but we'll never know. We'll never know.
Well, we may never know unless two seats reappear. Then I'm going to keep trying, then I could cancel the Delta award.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, fun times. So that brings us, I think, to, speaking of craziness, what crazy thing did another European airline do this week? What crazy thing did British Airways do this week?
Yeah, so British Airways was, they've gotten really tight with Qatar. So Qatar has changed their award program to earn Avios, which is the same currency British Airways and Iberia and Aer Lingus uses. And so there's sort of a tighter connection there. And they also specifically advertise the ability to move points back and forth 1-to-1 between British Airways and Qatar. And then you can indirectly then also move stuff from Qatar to like Iberia, because you could go to British Airways and move it from there to Iberia. So anyway, so that happened this week. That became live this week. And the other thing that became live is British Airways apparently didn't like having awards that were way more expensive than Qatar's own awards. So in particular, the award that everybody raves about is US to Doha on Qatar Q Suites. Is a fantastic product, and it's a fantastic deal with Qatar miles for 70,000 points per person, or with American Airlines miles, 70,000 miles per person.
But British Airways has a distance-based chart, right? So they're gonna do the math and figure out how far it is, and they're gonna charge you tons of Avios, right?
Right. And so flights from California should cost a lot more than flights from Boston, and so on.
It's a long way to Doha.
Nope. They changed their minds on that one. They said, enough with this distance-based award chart. We want to play with the others. 70,000 points is what we're going to charge you for this, which is great.
Rules of the game. I mean, I'm not complaining. Let me get that straight. I'm not complaining. It is great. It is great. It's awesome. But weird, isn't it?
It is. It's crazy. I mean, because they have a published award chart, and so how do you know what you're going to get now? You just have to do the searches and find out, I guess. So who knows? Are there other deals like this hanging out there in British Airways world?
Who would have ever looked, right? I mean, who would have ever looked?
At least, right. At least at the time that we're recording this, we don't know. Maybe we'll have, by the time you listen to this, who knows? Maybe we'll have published all kinds of other sweet spots from British Airways. But nice new feature there.
Thank you for the craziness. Okay, good job, British Airways. Keep up the good work. Let's have some more good values using British Airways Avios. That would be nice. We appreciate that kind of a change.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Speaking of doing the math and figuring things out, let's talk about, I don't know if we were talking about it. That was a transition there. Let's talk about Mattress running the numbers. We're going to talk about IHG this week and run the numbers with IHG, because the credit cards are now newly revamped. The business card is now out. So the question on everybody's mind, I'm sure, is should I spend like 40 or 60,000 bucks on an IHG card, Greg?
Right. That's the question. I'm going to expand it. Should I spend 20,000? Should I spend 40,000? Should I spend 60,000? That's the question. This is going to be fun, because hold on to your hats. We're going to be doing lots of math.
Bust out your calculators, folks. All right.
And everybody, if you're a podcast listener, you're almost certainly a podcast listener because you love listening to math. And
well, that's not the case. Look at the timestamps and just skip ahead to the main event.
All right. Let's get into this. So this is kind of fun, because IHG cards previously were like, it was an easy question to answer. If someone said, should I charge things to my IHG card? No, you have the IHG card in the past for the annual free night cert, and that was it. Well, also for the other perks like the annual free night certificate and things like that. I'm sorry, for the platinum status and for the fourth night free awards. Wow. You got to correct me more, Nick.
Sorry. I'll let you go with that. I'll let you slide with that. And I shouldn't have. You're right. I was thinking I was going through my head. I was like, and they have those every now and then. Chase has those spending offers for 5x points, but even those have been a little questionable on the IHG card, right?
Yeah. It's like you get sort of goodish value, but often there's competing cards that'll give you better value, even with 5x rewards.
And the thing is, the reason I spaced out is because my next thought was, do I have one of those right now? Where is my IHG card? That was literally the thought pattern there.
Right,
so.
right. If you had my filing system, you would know to go to the binder that's not for Amex cards,
Right,
and go to the letter C because it's a Chase card, and search through there for the IHG cards.
Keep following us for other nerdy tips. All right, so
so here's the thing. That all changed because IHG cards used to earn only 1 point per dollar for non-bonus spend, but now it earns a base. The Premier cards, Premier consumer and business cards, earn 3 points per dollar. So that's a huge bump up in the value of using it for regular spend. And not only that, the both cards offer perks at $20,000 annual spend and at $40,000 annual spend. And the business card offers additional perks at $60,000 spend. So is it worth doing those levels of spend? So let's get into that. When we last looked at the value, the redemption value of IHG points, we're looking about 0.6 of a cent. Okay. That's our RRV. That's the average value you get without trying to cherry pick awards. That means you can get much better than that by only using points when you see a good value. But let's just say on average, you get 0.6. That means when you're spending 3 points per dollar, you're getting about 1.8 cents value, which we wouldn't do, right? If that was it, because anyone can get a 2% cashback card and do better than that. And there's even better award options than that.
So just to jump in, because you told me to jump in, you said when you're spending 3x. So what Greg meant there is you're earning 3x everywhere now is the base rate on the card. So if you're spending with your credit card and earning 3x points, you're essentially earning like 1.8% back towards IHG stays, which isn't particularly exciting.
Right. I'm not listening to what I'm saying. So
it's not like you were saying spending points. And so I just wanted to be clear for, the three new listeners out there that we're not talking about spending IHG points. The three new listeners who stuck it out through the math section.
That's being generous. Okay. All right. So anyway, just spending on your credit card and getting 3x points, not great by itself, not terrible. If you know that you're going to be using those points for high value awards, not just average value awards, it could be very well worth it, but that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to say, well, what if it's only worth 0.6 cents each point? And when you spend $20,000 on an IHG Premier card, you get 10,000 bonus points and $100 statement credit. Okay. So the 10,000 bonus points adds $60 of value if we're valuing the points at 0.6, and the $100 statement credit adds $100 of value. So $160 value.
Tricky math on that one, Greg. Thanks.
Right. You got it. And the regular spend, so you spent $20,000, you earned 3 points per dollar on that spend. So you got 60,000 points.
Right.
Those are worth $360 at that 0.6 valuation. All right.
Okay.
So 360 plus the 160 equals $520 worth of value you got from that spend, divided by 20,000 gives you 2.6% back in value.
Look at that. I bet there's some calculators out there showing exactly that amount right now. They've been sitting there punching in the numbers. 2.6 is pretty good, isn't it, Greg?
It is pretty good. And here now the question of whether you're going to get average value or better than average value from your points is it's almost irrelevant. If you just think that you have a good shot of getting better than average value, it might be worth doing, right? Because
even if you're a little bit below average value, it's still going to probably beat out a 2% back card if you value points for IHG awards. I mean, that's the thing to keep in mind whenever we're making these comparisons with cash. If you're earning cash back, you have a bit more flexibility. If you're earning IHG points, and we're saying it's like 2.6% back. It's like 2.6% back towards IHG award stays. So, keep that in mind, I guess, as you're doing the math. But still, I mean, that's better than what most people are going to get day to day on most of their credit cards on unbonus spend. I mean, we're not even talking about the bonus categories here, right? We're just talking about the 3X everywhere. So you use this for taxes or for your health insurance or for whatever, like whatever it is that you're not going to earn bonus points on normally for 20K spend. And that's reasonable value.
It is. It's reasonable. It's not enough to go out and like ditch like other opportunities, but if you're into IHG, it's reasonable value. Now, a Nicholas from an episode or two ago would have said, but wait a minute. You can't really value the IHG points at 0.6 because
okay, good. I'm glad you said that because that's what I was thinking.
Because they're often available on sale for half a cent each. And so, another strategy, of course, is to get a 2% cashback card. And whenever the IHG points are on sale for half cent each, you buy them and you're essentially earning 4 points per dollar instead of 3 by earning cash back.
Right.
So what I did is for each 20K of spend that I analyzed, I came up with the half cent equivalent. So if you were only valuing the points at half a cent, what would be your rate of return? And at 20K spend, your rate of return is 2.25%.
There you go. Okay. So
still pretty good.
I'm glad you brought that up because when you were talking about before, you're talking about the 0.6 cents per point. So 1.8% basically for, when you're spending on unbonus spending, earning 3 points per dollar, you're saying kind of like 1.8%. And you were like, that if you're going to redeem them at better value, then that's very reasonable or something along. You used an adjective there or an adverb where I was like, well, I don't know if I'd say it's highly reasonable or very good because that was my thought. Like you can buy these points for half a cent each. So slow down. Let's not get out of hand. So I'm glad you thought that through, Greg. Nicely done. So 2.25. That's why this man is Greg, the frequent miler, guys. You see, he thinks about these things. So
the frequent calculator.
The frequent calculator. That's right. That's a whole nother site. That's you better buy that domain right now. thefrequentcalculator.com. So 2.25% is still better than what most people are getting. There are cards on the market where potentially you can get more, but 2.25 is still reasonably good. And I totally agree that we probably shouldn't overvalue these points, anything beyond half a cent each, even though you may be able to redeem them for better. You would always buy them for half a cent because you always can, basically. So.
Right. That said, we're going to have to keep an eye on the sales and see if those continue because, in the past, they haven't been as regular a few years ago as they've been in the past couple pandemic years. And so, if it goes back to being rare or non-existent, then I think 0.6 is a reasonable number to use.
That's true.
So, all right, moving forward. So, all right. So you spent the 20K, you got your bonuses,
right?
Should you spend another 20K because another 20K spend will get you to 40K, which at 40K, you get diamond status, which is their new name for their top tier elite. So before it was called Spire Elite, and now it's called Diamond Elite. So what do you think? Should you
$40,000 on an IHG? It just sounds a little crazy, doesn't it? $40,000 on an IHG card. I mean, first thing that we should mention when we're talking about big spend bonuses, and so this really kind of backs up the truck and should have probably been put out there right at the beginning, that big spend bonuses are only worth considering if you already have enough spend to meet whatever other welcome bonuses you may be interested in going after, or opening as many cards as it is that you're comfortable opening, because I definitely would not dedicate $20,000 or $40,000 spend to an IHG card if that was going to prevent me from earning other welcome bonuses that are worth far more. So that's
great point.
It's questionable here because you could do better out there with other cards and other card bonuses and maybe even other big spend bonuses. But getting back to the question, so you said, is it worth spending another 20 and spending 40,000 total for diamond status, for IHG diamond status? What, for like 2 bottles of water, Greg? Like what
right?
What are you doing?
So all right. First of all, we don't yet know what perks Diamond status is going to have. We know that they're planning on revamping the program, and we know that that's been delayed till sometime in April, and who knows, may even go later than that. And so we just don't know. Like, if they had amazing perks, maybe you could make an argument for it. So what I did is I based the analysis on the way Spire Elite works, which is when you earn Spire Elite status, you get a choice benefit, and one of those choice benefits is 25,000 bonus points. So I don't know if that'll still exist as an option, but let's just do the analysis as if that's an option. Is you spend another 20,000, you get 25,000 bonus points. So that means that the extra $20,000 you just spent will give you the base 60,000 points, because remember, you're earning 3 points per dollar.
Right, I'm with you so far.
So plus the 25,000 points is 85,000 points. At 0.6, that's worth $510. At 0.5, that's worth what, $425.
Right.
And so that comes out to either 2.55% or 2.1%, depending on whether you're using the 0.6 or the 0.5 value.
This is where, mathematics is useful, but it comes to a point where you're kind of like, yeah, okay, you can make the numbers work, but it kind of still feels a little icky to spend $40,000 on an IHG card, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd have a hard time suggesting.
I get you, but let's just do the math here instead of the icky feelings.
All right. So we'll just make this sterile and just go with the math. With the mathematical numbers there, that's not bad. It just seems
that's kind of surprised me. I did not expect to see that that it's not bad. Now remember, it is contingent on this ability to get 25,000 bonus points. We don't know if that'll be true.
Right. And we also don't know what other perks they may come out with, although I don't get the sense that it's going to be the kind of perks that we really want. I mean, IHG is mostly focused on rewarding people for spending money at their hotels. And so I don't know. I view IHG as being a great program if you're spending a lot of your employer's money on hotels and they fit whatever the budget is for your per diem stays or whatever. So I feel like they're best for people who are spending a lot at IHGs already. And if that's you, and like 20,000 of this spend is already going to be your IHG stays for work that get reimbursed by your employer, well then, okay, now maybe I could say, all right, well, then you spend another $20,000 on unbonus purchases from your day-to-day life to get that status and a reasonable return here.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see, because it wouldn't surprise me at all if Diamond status includes things like a regular discount on awards on top of things like fourth night free. And so, it could be very valuable from that point of view, too, if they do something like that. So we'll see. What I agree with you that we shouldn't expect the kind of like elite benefits that we're used to with Hyatt, for example, of the free full hot breakfast and suite upgrades and things like that seem unlikely to me.
Right, but a discount on awards, that's a reasonable guess, and also potentially a reasonably good benefit that'll differentiate them. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see. We'll find out. So if we determine that it's worth it, if we say, okay, yes, whatever benefits they've come out with, it's worth spending 40 to get to Diamond status, then you got to pump the brakes, right? You don't spend any more money on an IHG card, do you?
So the question is, do we spend 20,000 more to get to 60,000 spend? And the answer with the personal card is super easy. No, because there's no bonus at 60,000 spend with the personal card.
I mean, that was the answer. That was an easy answer for me too, Craig. I didn't need the analysis, but yes, no. So there's no reason to do any more spend at that point, because 3X is not
on the personal card
and the personal
the
card.
Business cards
at that point. Business
card though will give you another free night certificate. So another free night worth up to 40,000 points per night. And if you remember, they indirectly made these certs more valuable by allowing you to add points to get a free night. So the idea is like, if you want to stay somewhere that costs 50,000 points for that night, you use the certificate for 40,000 of those points, and you throw in 10,000 of your IHG points to get to the 50. And because of that ability, I think everyone's going to have an easier time using their certs for full 40K value, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I did. As I said, certificates are never worth as much as points because they expire in a year. They can't be used, like a 40K cert can't be used for 4 10K nights. There's a lot of limitations, but let's just say that we value it at 3/4 of its point value. So we value it at 30,000 points instead of 40,000. All right. The 20,000 spend to get you to 60 will get you the base 60,000 points because you earn 3 points per dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Now add the value of 30,000 points for the free night certificate. So that's 90,000 points value, which at 0.6 is worth $540, which gives you a 2.7% return on that final 20K spend, unless you value at half a cent, and then it's a 2.25% return.
That's it. I'm dumping Hyatt. It's over, Hyatt. It's over. Going to IHG.
Right. So, all right. So this was fun for the 3 people who stuck it out through.
Thank you for sticking it out there. It's interesting.
Longest Mattress Run segment ever.
It's interesting because who would have ever thought? But yeah. All right. So maybe it's worth spending on the IHG cards as the.
You know what? I'm going to wait and see what the elite benefits are and so on, because I could see if they are really desirable. I could see wanting to dedicate 40K. Whether I'd go another 20K, that seems very questionable to me. Even at that high rate of return, it's kind of easier to make sure that everyone in the family has like both the business card and personal card, so you're getting the free nights every year automatically.
Right. Right. And I know we got to get into the main event here, but I'm a little more lukewarm, like more days that pass with this concept of topping off free night certificates with points. I'm becoming more lukewarm on it. Just this morning,
really?
I was looking at it this morning. I was looking at a hotel stay in New York City and Intercontinental there, which I wouldn't have probably picked for this particular stay anyway. But it was 40,500 points. And I was like, oh, well, pretty soon, maybe I'll be able to top off a free night certificate with 500 points. That seems great. And then I was like, wait a second. If they charged a surcharge to use your free night certificates, like if Marriott and IHG said, you know what, you can use your free night certificate, but there's a $25 redemption fee or a $10 redemption fee or 18, whatever it might be, wouldn't we be saying that's ridiculous? You get a free night certificate and then you have to pay a surcharge in order to use your free night certificate? We would be up in arms. If there was a cash surcharge, we'd be up in arms, but it's points. So we don't think about it like money, even though it is. And with IHG, it feels more like money because I just view the points as half a cent each since they're always on sale for that. So I think that's why it triggered that reaction. I was like, it's like paying $2.50 to use my free night certificate. That's ridiculous, isn't it? I don't know. So I'm becoming more lukewarm on it just this morning.
So that just feels like an emotional reaction as opposed to a logical reaction. Like to me, this ability unlocks. So what I hated was when they capped the free nights. They used to be uncapped. You could use them everywhere. When they capped it, I hated that. But now it's like, given that they're capped, meaning you can only use it for up to 40,000 points for the free part of it, over and over, I want to stay somewhere and it costs more than 40,000 points. And so I don't use the certificate and I end up at the end of the year, like trying to figure out how do I use these things. Last year, I think I let one expire. And that really bugs me. I don't think that'll happen anymore. They won't expire. I'll get full value because, I'm going to see that 40,500 award and say, that's where I want to stay. I'm going to book it, and 500 points. That's like nothing.
That's what Marriott and IHG wants you to think. I don't know. I mean, you're right. You're definitely right. When I thought about it more like money, I was like, if that was a cash surcharge, I think people would be less excited. Now, if there were still award charts and it was like, okay, you pay $25 for a category 6 or $50 for a category 7 or, $100, whatever it might be, then maybe people would be more excited in general, or not as upset about the cash surcharge, thinking, oh, well, it's still a really good deal. But I feel like that general, like, you don't know how much there's going to be an award surcharge. It's basically like a fuel surcharge, right, on your award certificates. I mean, one you don't mind paying, I guess, because you're going to get a better product out of the deal. Some people don't mind paying the British Airways fuel surcharges or the Lufthansa fuel surcharges because the flight meets their needs, but I'm not going to pay those fuel surcharges. So I feel kind of annoyed by the free night certificates. I'll probably use the points and top them off. Don't get me wrong. Just getting off my soapbox. Okay, let's talk about
let's
move
on from Nick's nonsense.
Let's move on. Let's move on from my nonsense. That's right. There we go. All right, so let's get into this week's main event.
Magical point conversions. So we kicked off the show talking about transfers from Amtrak to from JetBlue to Amtrak, and the idea is that when you have your JetBlue points, you could transfer them to Amtrak. Now you only get half as many, but with Amtrak points worth up to 2.9 cents each towards Amtrak travel,
they're basically
that's like getting 1.45 cents per JetBlue mile, which is not bad.
Yeah, right,
not bad at all.
Exactly. That's what they're usually worth about towards a JetBlue flight, right?
Exactly, and often less. So that's a really nice option if you want to travel Amtrak. I used this conversion recently for my son because his Amtrak points were getting almost ready to expire. 2 months before expiry, we shopped through the Amtrak portal to buy something for like $1 just to earn some Amtrak points to generate activity in his account so that his points would not expire. But guess what? Even though the points are pending, they still haven't been applied to his Amtrak account 2 months later.
Yeah.
So his points were still going to expire. So instead, I jumped on and converted some of his JetBlue points to Amtrak. Boom. In our case, it took about 5 hours for that conversion. So other people said it took them like about a day, but
yeah, either way, 30 hours for me about
for you. So a little over a day. So, but still, I mean, the fact is you could renew, if your Amtrak points are about to expire in a couple days, this is still a viable option. So
for sure,
there's some coolness there. And it also gives, some programs, some transferable points programs, the ability to convert their points to Amtrak. Now, again, it would be 2 to 1, not 1 to 1. But by going indirectly, you transfer your transferable points to JetBlue, and then from there you transfer to Amtrak. So Chase and Citi both allow 1-to-1 transfers to JetBlue, so you could do that with them. Amex allows transfers to JetBlue, but they have a lesser transfer ratio, so I wouldn't do that.
And Capital One dropped JetBlue, I think, altogether, right? So, yeah, yes. That's interesting to me because I think you're getting reasonable value potentially because, like we said, even though you're getting half as many Amtrak points, the Amtrak points are worth more than the JetBlue points. So, at 1.4 something cents per JetBlue point or 1.4 something cents per Citi ThankYou point or whatever, that's reasonable value for a redemption. Yeah. And so, and for something that you wouldn't otherwise ordinarily have easy access to Amtrak points for. So I thought that was really good. I also personally was excited about this because I have a bunch of JetBlue points. I've earned a bunch from, they have the card linked offer for Lowe's. And so I've earned a bunch spending money at Lowe's, where I've earned 3 points per dollar in store, or shopping on the Lowe's.com website, also earn 3 points per dollar. So I got a bunch of JetBlue points, and I have not flown JetBlue in like almost 10 years at this point because they just don't have a good presence at my local airport, and they just never meet my needs. Now, I know lots of people I like JetBlue a lot. I find their economy seats particularly comfortable. I've flown them a bunch of times in the past, just they haven't met my needs the last almost 10 years here now. So I've got these points just collecting dust, doing nothing in my account. And I was thinking, someday I'll use them for a mint flight or something, even though it might not be a great value. I'll just splurge, or points I wouldn't have had otherwise, whatever. I'll use them eventually. Now I'm like, oh, well, I have a really good use for those potentially. So that's exciting.
Right. It is. And, let's talk beyond JetBlue and Amtrak now.
Yeah.
We brought this up earlier about Qatar joining the Avios Collection, and
the Avios Collection. That's what we should call it from now on. The Avios Collection.
And that things like that can make transferable points currencies more valuable. So Citibank, for example, one of its Achilles heels for its ThankYou points program is that it doesn't transfer to British Airways. But now it does indirectly. So you transfer your Citi points to Qatar, and then from Qatar to British Airways. And then if you want to, from British Airways to Iberia or to Aer Lingus. And all of them have slightly different ways of pricing awards and pricing fuel surcharges. So you kind of never know what you're going to get. It's sort of worth running searches on all the programs to see what it would cost to book your award on any one of them and then move your points around.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, and they have different sweet spots
deal there.
where there's, there is a particular sweet spot that, it's really good for this or really good for that. And so that ability to move the points between the programs is great. Like you said, it increases the value of Citi ThankYou points for sure. And also just gives you a lot of flexibility in taking advantage of good award chart sweet spots. And there are quite a few different issuers that don't list all of the Avios partners. For instance, Capital One, I can't remember, but I think they list that they transfer to British Airways maybe, and they don't actually list that they transfer to Iberia and Aer Lingus because you can't transfer directly to those programs, but you can just through British Airways. So
right. And now Amtrak, Chase, and Capital One, all of which had the ability to transfer to, and still have the ability to transfer to British Airways, now can indirectly transfer to Qatar as well.
Okay, you just said Amtrak, but I think you meant Amex. I was like, wait a second, is there another Amtrak transfer that I'm just trying to
keep you on your toes.
Okay,
there.
Right. I got to pay attention now and jump in on these because a few people got lost in the math weeds there, and they're like still trying to find their way out. So just trying to give them a little like light here, follow along. Right. Okay, so
and one thing that's almost unique about these transfers of Avios points from one program to another is that you don't lose any value if you go back the other way.
Yeah.
You can move from British Airways to Qatar and back to British Airways, and you have the same number of points. That's not true in what we were talking about before. So when you transfer from Amtrak to JetBlue, you would lose a lot of value. It's not 1-2 at that point, as you would expect going the other, because the other way is 2-1. And
this is a good point because a very common misconception amongst newcomers to the game. And in fact, a question that we got at the Travel and Adventure Show last weekend was, how do I transfer my miles from, in fact, the question I think last weekend was, how do I transfer my miles from United to like Turkish in order to take advantage of Turkish award pricing? And the answer is, you can't do that because generally speaking, you can't move miles from one airline specific program to another airline specific program. This is a really odd exception that doesn't exist in many places in this space where you can move the points freely between different airlines that all use Avios as a common currency.
Right. It's super confusing because we talk about how you can use Turkish miles to book United awards. So to book actually flying on United. But that's different from moving Turkish miles to United or vice versa. Those are two completely separate concepts, but I get why people who don't know the ins and outs of this, that would be confusing. Like, you hear that and what's the difference between moving the points? I totally get why that would be totally mystifying. I tried to think of some kind of analogy earlier today before recording to explain the difference. I could not think of one.
Yeah, no, there's not a good one. So Avios, that's your strange exception to the rule where you can move them back and forth between the different airlines that use Avios. So because there are different airlines that use the same common currency.
Right. So I'm going to jump to another magical transformation of points that allows 1-to-1 in both directions is Wyndham to Caesars Rewards. You could go Wyndham to Caesars, Caesars to Wyndham. It's still 1-to-1. There is a cap of, I think, 30,000 points per year. So there's limited utility there. But it means that if you want to, if you have a Citibank, if you have Citibank ThankYou points, or you have Capital One miles, you can, indirectly transfer those points to Caesars. I'm not sure why you'd want to, because they're only worth penny each.
But yeah, but
you can move them to Wyndham and then to Caesars.
Right. You want the joy of free from getting a massage or dinner or whatever it is at Caesars, I guess you have that option. Or then also if you want to get into the lounge, if you have Caesars Diamond status and you want to get into the lounge, you need 1,000 rewards credits for that. So you can move them from Wyndham over to Caesars. So the other thing is, by the way, not only, I mean, you're talking about from Citi and from Capital One, but the other option there too is if you got the Wyndham Rewards business card, then you're earning 8 points per dollar at gas stations and effectively earning 8% back towards Caesars spend. So that may be worthwhile. Or if you have Caesars points that you've earned from the Caesars Sportsbook, then you would also have an option there.
Or from actually being on site, right? And
if you're a gambler
and doing whatever you do to earn Caesars
move
points,
those over to Wyndham if you'd like.
Move them to Wyndham and book a Vacasa vacation rental, like great value.
No kidding.
That's a pretty cool little partnership there, and it's very niche, very specific, but again, super cool that it allows two-way transfers. Okay. If you have Hyatt points or you have a Chase Ultimate Rewards or Bilt points that transfer 1-to-1 to Hyatt, then you can transfer 1-to-1 to LATAM, however you say that program.
Or LATAM. I don't know. Yeah. How do you
LATAM?
LATAM. That's how I've always pronounced it, but I don't know. Who knows? Well, I only pronounce it that way because it was LAN and it was Tom. So I pronounce it LATAM now. I don't know if that's right though.
Go.
That's just the way
it's right. It's right for the show.
There you go. All right. So you could transfer them to LATAM. And maybe they have some amazing award chart sweet spots. I know we were talking about this just before the show, and there was a reader that had pointed out a few sweet spots with them a few years back. I think it was just pre-pandemic or something. And so I remember starting to look into it and then not going too far with it. But one of the things that I remember, or I seem to remember anyway, is that they release more availability to their own members. And the reason that might be special is if you want to visit Easter Island, because that's your ticket to Easter Island. It can be very difficult to snag those award tickets from Santiago to Easter Island. So if they have more availability for their own members, transferring from Hyatt to LATAM or from Bilt to Hyatt to LATAM or Chase Ultimate Rewards to Hyatt to LATAM could be worthwhile for that. And then of course they also fly on to Australia, I think from Easter Island, if I remember correctly.
Right. They also partner with Delta and you might be able to find some good values there. I don't know. I suspect that it's often not good value, but there could be some secret values in there. So that's worth keeping an eye on. Another one is Aeromexico. You could do the same thing. Hyatt 1-to-1 to Aeromexico. Now, a year ago, I would have said, don't ever do that because Aeromexico's awards seem to be way overpriced. They do have a Round the World award that sounds good in price, but everybody I've known who's tried to book such a thing has failed because their support for that is so miserable. But Nick recently ran across a good use of Aeromexico miles.
Yeah, they have more. They have access to expanded availability on Delta flights. So Aeromexico actually has more availability, or I should say, they have access to more Delta award seats than other Delta partners like Air France or Virgin Atlantic. Aeromexico has this basically non-saver access to Delta flights. And of course, it'll cost you more miles, but not necessarily as many miles as Delta would charge you for the same flights. And at the time when I had written about it, there was a transfer bonus to Aeromexico, so it worked out even better from Amex. But still, there may be times where the flight you really want, Delta wants a lot of miles for, and it isn't available to Virgin Atlantic or Air France. You might just want to hop onto Aeromexico's site and take a look and see, because it may very well be available. We wrote about a whole bunch of different examples like that. Now, as we were talking about this, or as you were talking about it, I thought to myself, you know what? We're leading readers astray here, though, because when we talked about transferring to LATAM and transferring to Aeromexico, we're saying you can transfer 1-to-1, but that's not exactly true. You can't transfer 1,000 points to 1,000, right? You have to do
that's true. That's true. You have to do in I think it's 50K blocks, which that's a really good point, because stranding a bunch of points with Aeromexico that'd be very sad.
Right. Nobody wants to strand their points with Aeromexico. You don't want to be stranded like that.
So take both of these, LATAM and Aeromexico, more as interesting curiosities than something you're really going to rush out and do. Because most of the time it's not going to be good value. And if you do find good value with Aeromexico, and if you have Amex points, Amex, even without a transfer bonus,
because Amex is giving them out like, oh my gosh, you should. Candy here. I mean, come on.
Exactly. If you have Amex points, even without a transfer bonus, they transfer 1 to 1.6. So it's absolutely a much, much better way to go. And you can do it, 1,000 Amex. Whoa, 1,000 Amex points at a time for those transfers.
Greg's got a one-track mind.
Oh man, that was
okay. All right.
I'm leaving. That was so bad.
Follow me for more great dad jokes. All right. So those are two examples you're never going to do, right? You're not really going to transfer your Hyatt points to LATAM unless you get that elusive flight to Easter Island that you can't find otherwise. And you're not probably going to be transferring to Aeromexico anytime soon, since you have easy access to Amex membership rewards points. Amex, that is, Greg. So what are some other ones that people might actually use?
All right. So that Amex has a standard transfer to Hilton, 1 to 2.
I do.
And you probably think that they're the only transferable points currency that transfers to Hilton.
They aren't.
But you can transfer Chase, Citibank, Capital One, or even Bilt to Hilton. 10,000 points in any one of them becomes 15,000 Hilton points. So it's 1 to 1.5, not as good as Amex, but it's kind of cool that it is possible. So how do you do it? You transfer first to Virgin Atlantic 1 to 1, and Virgin Atlantic lets you transfer 10,000 Virgin Atlantic points to 15,000 Hilton points. Again, as I said before, you can't go the other way. If you go the other way, Hilton to Virgin Atlantic, you'll lose ton of value. I think you'd only end up with 1,500 Virgin Atlantic miles, something like that, maybe 3,000 at most. So don't do that. But wait. if you don't have Amex points, which seems strange, but it's at least possible to do. Now, should you do it?
Oh, wait, hold on a second. Let's back up the truck. So the Virgin Atlantic to Hilton transfer, does that have to be in blocks of 10,000 points?
I think so.
You think so? Okay. Well, then maybe it doesn't work. I actually could probably do the math and figure it out. So what I was thinking in my mind was, as you were talking about that, so Amex offers transfer bonuses pretty frequently, right? So would it be but it wouldn't work out better, would it? I guess it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't work out better. Never mind. See, I needed the calculator and I didn't have it out yet. So
I know where you're going. Now to answer the question, should you ever do this transfer? The answer is easy. No. And here's why. Hilton, we talked earlier in the show about how IHG sometimes has half-cent sales. Hilton frequently has half-cent sales for their points. You could buy their points for half a cent each. That means if you have, let's say you have Chase or Citi points that you can just cash out for 1 cent each. That means you can indirectly convert your Chase or Citi points to Hilton points at a 1 to 2 ratio. That is, you convert them first to pennies, and then from pennies, convert to twice as many Hilton points because of these half-cent sales.
Right.
And so if you really need Hilton points, it's still not a great way to do it, but it's better than
the alternative.
Right.
Yeah. You cash out 10,000 points for $100. You buy 20,000 Hilton points, and you skip this whole Virgin Atlantic intermediary to only end up with 15,000 instead. So yeah, that is what you would do. Now, by the way, we mentioned earlier that we don't know if IHG will continue to run sales as frequently in whatever the new world order is here. Hilton, though, I'm more confident will. Their most recent point sale. That one ended and the next one began. I think it was 4 days in between before the next half-cent sale started.
Right.
So
also,
pretty much count on that.
Also, when I've looked at the average value of Hilton points recently, you're looking at 0.4. So on average, buying at half a cent each
It's still
is a bad deal.
Still a bad
Can you
deal.
get better than that?
Sure.
Better value than that? Of course you can. It is possible, but on average, Hilton is making out like a bandit with these sales. That's why I do expect it to continue. No doubt about that.
Good point. All right, next up on the docket
all right, last one is perhaps even a worse value. is you can do the same thing, Virgin Atlantic. So transfer to Virgin Atlantic, and then Virgin Atlantic to IHG. But Virgin Atlantic to IHG is 1-to-1. So you don't even get that 50% bonus. Should you do it? I mean, no.
Probably not. Probably not. I mean, these are things that I guess if you're a few points short of a valuable award and you have some orphaned points in Aeromexico, well, that's not going to do you any good. But you have some orphaned points in Virgin Atlantic or something like that, then maybe you would take advantage of one of these for a few points to make up the difference to do one of these magical conversions. When we say magical, we mean magical because it's kind of weird and interesting. We don't mean magical because they're so awesome. I think that out of these, the JetBlue to Amtrak is clearly the best one, right?
Well, the Avios,
moving
the Avios around is a great capability. You're not losing any value when doing that. And, but so I'd say those two are great. And Wyndham to Caesars and back, it has strategic use that would be good. Which could
also be good for extending the value or the life of your points with the Wyndham and Caesars thing, right? Because I think that didn't you find that renewed your points? So when your points are about to expire,
it's very interesting because Wyndham has one of those awkward programs where the points expire based on when they were earned, not they don't get refreshed when you have activity, and that's terrible. But by moving them to Caesars and then back to Wyndham, they appear to be like new points. And so you earn them when you move them back. So that's a way to keep them alive.
So interesting stuff. So, I mean, there are some potentially interesting values there, and it's always fun to look for these hidden things, and it's easy to forget about them. And so that's why I think the transfer partner master list page is very useful, as are the individual transfer partner pages that we have on Frequent Miler for each of the major transferable currencies. Because had I looked at any of those, when I told Greg on Friday I was booking a train and he said using points, if I had looked at one of those, I would have said, oh, yes, I'm transferring my JetBlue to Amtrak right now. And they wouldn't have transferred in time and I still would have paid cash. But at any rate, I would have at least known sooner that I could have done that. But I forgot. And I had read Greg's post about that transfer before, but it's hard to remember all of the partnerships all of the time. So,
it sure is. So, as you said, our transfer partner master list page has not only all the transfer partners of the transferable points currencies, but it also has indirect transfers like the ones we're talking about here. So you can get most of this information right there. So there you go. I think that's it for the main event.
That's it. So we're going to move on to the post roast.
I don't know. You flubbed up something earlier in the show, and I know I did. So
we're gonna call it even.
Let's just call it a host roast. And be done.
That's right. Amex, not Amtrak. All right. So yes.
Unless you have something.
No. That's good.
Right,
that's good. Let's move into the question of the week. And I actually forgot that I just clicked off the question of the week. But the question of the week was relevant for me this week because I ran into a very similar sort of a situation. I'm gonna modify a bit. So Jesse writes in and says Jesse is an avid reader of Frequent Miler. Curious to hear what you think is the best card setup for leveraging as many free and or award stays as possible for hotel stays. So he says, for context, flights are free, flies non-rev. So he really has to focus on earning points for hotels or free night certificates for hotels. He says, I've seen Frequent Miler write and talk about utilizing a cash back strategy for hotels, but was curious if you had to do a card setup for points or certs, what's your ideal two-person setup or progression? Searched and not found anything. I have a tag on question that I'm going to add, but I want to get your answer to that first. So what's your ideal setup for hotel points and or certificates? Because, really the miles, even if you don't fly free non-rev, lately the miles have been pretty easy to come by. It's the hotel points that are harder. So
it's true. It's true. Yeah. Well, most of the programs, most of the major hotel programs have cards that have free night certificates that you get every year. So I like when it's a couple working together. I like the idea of signing up for those cards at the same time or near the same time, so that when you get those annual free night certificates and they're valid for a year, you have like one date. They're valid at the same time together, so you could book a weekend stay or whatever. It's hard juggling expiration dates when they're offset. So that's like a first tip, I guess. Just off the top of my head, I mean, if you like staying at IHG properties like Kimpton's and whatever, then each of you could get both the personal and business premier cards. So that would be 4 IHG nights you'd be getting each year for a combined $400 each, basically. What is it, $99 or $95? The annual fees, $99.
Yep.
So that's a really good deal for hotel nights costing 40,000 points. And you could do a similar thing with Marriott. And Nick just did a post about what's the best Marriott card. You look through there and pick which ones make sense for you both to get. But it could make sense for both of you to get up to 2 Marriott cards if you think you could use 4 free nights a year. Hyatt, you could do 1 each of the personal card. The business card doesn't come with a free night, if I remember right. And then you could also decide, do you spend $15,000 on each of those cards each year in order to get another free night, which could make sense depending on your needs. Hilton, the Aspire card, so that's the top end one, comes with a free night every year, uncapped, but it's usually a weekend free night, not a weekday. But that could be a fantastic weekend getaway for a couple. All of those, I mean, it adds up to a lot of money, a lot of annual fees, but the amount you'd be saving if you were actually using these as opposed to, paying for lodging for the same time periods could be really, really substantial. So I kind of like a combination like that of going after
all of them.
all the ones that you're pretty sure you'll use. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, that's not at all what I expected you to say. So that's actually not a bad strategy, and it kind of mirrors what I guess we do in my household, because we have a whole bunch of cards that have free night certificates, right? I mean, that's
so I'm curious so you said that's not a bad strategy and not what you expected me to say. Was what you expected me to say a bad strategy or a better strategy?
No, a different strategy, because, Chase Ultimate Rewards points is what I figured you would point to for Hyatt stays. And because he said certificates and or points. And so, if you're not needing to use points for flights at all, then collecting a lot of Ultimate Rewards points can be relatively easy with the Freedom cards rotating 5x categories, or if you have a business and you can get a Chase Ink cash card and earn 5 points per dollar at office supply stores, then your Hyatt points can be pretty easy to accumulate via Chase Ultimate Rewards rather than the Hyatt cards.
100%. So that's the other piece of it, which is, all of what I talked about are the mostly set and forget cards. So you get them and you get the annual fee every year. I mean, you get the annual certificate every year. You do get the annual fee. Yeah.
That's true.
Guaranteed.
Yes.
But for spend, I like getting a collection of Chase Ultimate Rewards cards and that transfer then 1-to-1 to Hyatt, because you can earn, as Nick said, you can earn, 3x to 5x in lots of great categories, and then 1.5x everywhere else if you get the Freedom Unlimited card. So
makes it very easy.
Really good way.
Lots of points that are valuable with Hyatt.
And Hyatt points are so valuable. So that's a really good way to go.
Yeah. But, there was something else I was going to say on that, and then I just totally lost it as we were talking. Because we were talking about the ideal 2-card strategy, Ultimate Rewards, 5. Oh my goodness, I forgot I was going to make.
Was it Bilt? I mean, because the other option is not
point.
To go with Chase cards or in addition to Chase cards, if you pay rent, look at the Bilt card, because you're earning Hyatt points. up to 3 points per dollar in certain categories. And you're earning extra points for paying rent. So all those transfer 1-to-1 to Hyatt as well.
Yeah. Okay. Good points there. No, I don't remember what I was going to say, but I want to tag on the additional question that I had. Maybe I'll think about what I was going to say to Jesse also. So the additional
we get a bonus question.
Bonus question. It's related because I had a couple of paid stays recently, and they were Hyatt stays, and my wife has the Hyatt card. I don't. Originally, she was going to be coming with me, so I wasn't concerned about the fact that I didn't have a Hyatt card to pay for the stay. And then plans changed, and so she didn't end up with me. So I was by myself, and I thought, okay, well, I have her Hyatt card on my Samsung Galaxy Watch, but they didn't have a payment terminal with mobile payment technology kind of a thing set up. They had to actually physically take the card to swipe it, and so I didn't want to take the watch off my wrist and hand it over. So what I got thinking to myself about was, what card would you use for a hotel stay when A, you just don't have that chain's credit card, or B, you don't have that card with you? What would be the best card to be paying for paid stays with, Greg?
Yeah. So outside of like when you have certain bonuses, like the Venture X used to have a sign up bonus that gave you $200 in credit towards certain things, and it was crediting at some hotels. So outside of those kind of weird things, I like I use my Sapphire Reserve for that purpose. 3x points at all travel. If you had an Amex Green card, that would also give you 3x. City Premier, I think, would give you 3x at hotels. So
yep.
All of those, I think, would be good choices. Is there? Did I miss anything that you thought of?
No, you didn't. No, well, only because the Ink Plus was in my wallet did I think about the fact that the Ink Plus earns 2x on hotels, I believe. So I looked it up.
Ink Business Premier, though, 3x travel as well.
So there you go. So that would have been a good choice too. So there you go. There you have it. There's some things for paid stays. Now, I did think of what I was going to say to Jesse. I'll put a link in the description, because another thing to think about when you're trying to figure out your hotel strategy is, what kind of hotels do I want to stay at? Like, because you didn't mention like what level of hotel. Do you prefer like a limited service hotel?
Point.
Do you want someplace that's a 5-star kind of a thing? And the reason that came to mind is because Greg wrote an excellent series on manufacturing nights at different chains and how much spend you have to do, like at grocery stores with the Hilton Ascend or Surpass or whatever it's called nowadays, Surpass card, in order to earn free nights at lower tier Hilton cards and lower tier Hilton properties, rather mid-tier Hilton properties and top tier, and compared that with Hyatt and with Marriott. So, if you want mid-tier nights, the answer for you, depending on your spending patterns, might be different than the answer for somebody who wants top tier or just the cheapest type of places. So, so I'm going to link those in the description for the show. So make sure you take a look at those. Okay. That brings us to the end, I think. So if you've been listening today and you've been enjoying this and you'd like to get our posts in your email inbox, you want to go to frequentmiler.com/subscribe. Again, that's frequentmiler.com/subscribe to join our email list. Follow us on all the various social medias, wherever you are listening to this. Make sure you like and subscribe and enable notifications. Leave us a comment. Leave us some feedback. We always love to hear from readers. Maybe you'll end up on the next Frequent Miler reader feedback or giant mailbag segment or question of the week. If you'd like to get featured on one of those, you can email us at mailbag@frequentmiler.com. Thank you.
Oh, it's so sad. Everyone, all these podcast listeners putting away their podcast calculators because we're all done with all that math.
Done with the math. Done with this weekend's time. Sorry that it's over, fellas. See you later, everybody.
But don't worry. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.